The psalmist continues his internal dialogue in verse 6. O my God, my soul is cast down within me. Therefore will I remember thee from the land of Jordan, and of the Hermonites, from the hill Mizar. Psalm 42, verse 6. Despite the command to hope, his soul remains pressed low. Grief has not lifted. The psalmist speaks about his condition while affirming his relationship with God. O my God declares relationship with the Lord even in the midst of suffering. This reference to specific locations suggests the psalmist's distance from Jerusalem. The land of Jordan, the Hermonites, and the hill Mizar all lie north of the temple. These geographical markers emphasize his separation from the place where God's presence dwelt. Yet the psalmist determines to remember God from this distant place. Memory becomes an act of faith. When present circumstances offer no comfort, the believer recalls God's past faithfulness. Verse 7 introduces powerful imagery. Deep calleth unto deep at the noise of thy waterspouts. All thy waves and thy billows are gone over me. Psalm 42, verse 7. The language describes overwhelming waters. Deep calleth unto deep suggests successive waves. Waterspouts pour down from above, while the waves crash from all directions. The psalmist feels submerged, unable to surface for air. He experiences his trials as drowning. The Lord controls the waters that threaten to consume his servant. This acknowledgement reveals mature faith. The psalmist does not attribute his suffering to chance or to the power of his enemies. He recognizes God's sovereignty over his situation. The waves that overwhelm him come from the hand of the Almighty. This truth could drive a person to despair or to deeper trust. The psalmist chooses the latter path. Verse 8 shifts to affirmation. Yet the Lord will command his loving kindness in the daytime, and in the night his song shall be with me, and my prayer unto the God of my life. Psalm 42, verse 8. The word yet signals a turn from a description of suffering to a declaration of faith. Despite the overwhelming waves, the psalmist expects God's loving kindness. The Lord directs his loving kindness toward his people. This love will come in the daytime. It will also come at night, when fears multiply and sleep eludes the troubled soul. God's song will remain. The psalmist will have a song even in the night season. Prayer continues to the God of my life, the one who gives and sustains life itself. Verse 9 returns to lament. I will say unto God my rock, why hast thou forgotten me? Why go I mourning? Because of the oppression of the enemy. Psalm 42, verse 9. The psalmist addresses God as his rock, the foundation, and his refuge. Yet he asks the hard question, why hast thou forgotten me? The feeling of abandonment weighs upon him. God seems absent when his presence is most needed. The question, why go I mourning, reveals the ongoing nature of the suffering. The psalmist does not endure a brief trial. He walks in mourning day after day because of his enemies' oppression. The enemies represent those who mock his faith and question God's existence. Their taunts wound because they challenge the very foundation of the psalmist's hope. Verse 10 intensifies the description of suffering. As with a sword in my bones, mine enemies reproach me, while they say daily unto me, where is thy God? Psalm 42, verse 10. This reproach cuts like a sword, penetrating to the bone. The pain reaches the deepest part of his being. The enemy's words inflict wounds as real as any physical weapon. Their daily question, where is thy God, strikes at the core of faith. The psalmist has claimed God as his rock and refuge. He has commanded his soul to hope in the living God, yet his circumstances seem to contradict his confession. The enemies see his suffering and conclude that God has abandoned him or that God does not exist. Their mockery becomes a daily assault on faith. This passage reveals the reality of spiritual warfare. The believer faces not only external circumstances, but also attacks on faith itself. The enemies do not just cause physical suffering. They question God's existence and faithfulness. They suggest that trust in God is foolish and that the psalmist's hope is misplaced. The psalmist in Psalm 42 demonstrates tenacity. He feels forgotten and overwhelmed. He mourns daily, and his enemies hurt him with their words. Yet he continues to pray. He still addresses God as my God and my rock. He anticipates God's loving kindness and expects a song in the night. Faith persists even when feelings suggest abandonment. These verses teach believers how to endure when God seems distant. The psalmist models honest prayer. He acknowledges the pain, and he voices his questions to God. He brings his why to the Lord, and he describes the sword-like pain of reproach.